was near. Prepare yourself.
Alright, yeah, I can work with that. Welcome back, wayward children, to my humble hovel. Let's get you back in touch with your roots, shall we? So, the moment a lot of us have been waiting for, the drop of God of War 5 or God of War 2.2, I don't know. A lot of people are really confused about what to call it since this God of War was not called God of War 4 on the game itself. It was just called God of War. But the new one has dropped and it is called Ragnarok. Now, a lot of people are complaining. They was like, man, we got virtually no details from this, and some people are upset about it. So a lot of people were complaining that we didn't get a whole lot from the trailer, but I have to strongly disagree. What was given to us is actually fairly substantial. One, at the end of the last game, spoilers for anyone who hasn't played the first game, there's going to be a lot of spoilers in what I'm going to be talking about in here, so if you don't want that, feel free to click away from the video. I won't be offended. But if you want to know what to expect from God of War 5, you might want to stick around because I've got some real doozies to drop on you guys. So we're going to talk about three things. One, what can we expect based off of the trailer and the timing of the trailer drop? Two, what sort of fights can we expect in the game? And three, what is the game after this one likely going to hold? So let's jump into it, starting with the timing of the trailer drop. Now, for anyone who's not familiar with pagan lore for Vikings or anywhere in the Indo-European area, right around this time is when preparations for winter would be starting. So at the end of the last game, we hear about Fimbulvinter from the dwarves Brokkr and Sindri. And Fimbulvinter is the 3-year-long winter that leads into Ragnarok, which is the apocalypse in Norse mythology. Now, why is that significant? Well, winter or Fimbulvinter would have been starting right around now, right around the time when the announcement trailer is being dropped, which I find to be super cool. I can't take credit for noticing that though. Plubius24k, if I don't know if I said your name correctly, but I'll put it in here in text. One of the absolutely epic members of the clan base pointed it out to me, so thank you for that, my friend. But what does the trailer tell us? Well, one, we now have confirmed that they are calling it Ragnarok. So given that it is called Ragnarok, that could mean that we're only going to get one more game within the Norse pantheon. But we could also get 2 games. So, God of War originally was a trilogy with a bunch of side games to sort of fill in the story gaps, but we're not having that problem with this new God of War reboot, if you will. This reimagining of the God of War stories in the Norse pantheons doesn't have the same gaps in storytelling that the original ones did with the Greek pantheon. So God of War 1 and 2 had virtually no story to them, so they had to release a bunch of smaller games through mobile, and through to the PSP and the PS Vita in order to fill in the gaps in the lore that made it so that there was no real connection to the story. And the reason they did that is so that they could give us a weightier story in God of War 3, and God of War 3 had by far the best storytelling up to that point. But then, come 2018, we get God of War 4, which has an absolutely incredible story, great character dynamics, and massive ability for character development both in villains, in grey characters, as well as our protagonists. So they didn't have that same problem. So they could very easily end up this whole story in just 2 games. Now, if they do that, the fights we're going to see in the next game, we are absolutely going to get a fight between Kratos and Jormungandr. And I know a lot of people are going to go, what? No, they were allies in this one. Yes, but you'll note that at the end of the story, Jormungandr disappears entirely. He disappears from the Lake of Nine. He is no longer in Midgard, which means that the Midgard serpent that we meet in the next, which means that the world serpent that we meet in the next game will not know Kratos and Atreus, and his entire purpose is going to be the ending of Thor. So, there's a very, very good chance that in order to prevent Ragnarok, to prevent the end of the world, Kratos is going to have to fight the world serpent. Now, at the end of the last game, in the mural on the wall, we see Loki, or Atreus, walking with 3 wolves, and on there, the runes translate to Vargr, which means that they are not wolves, they are in fact the Vargr of Norse mythology, which are Fenrir, Skoll, and Hati, which means that at some point... Now, just as a real quick side note, in regular Norse mythology and the main accepted versions of the story, we get that Fenrir is the child of Loki and that Skoll and Hati are the children of Fenrir. But that's not really how it translates in the stories, and especially how we understand it in the lore of my family, is that Loki was not the father, but the caretaker. He essentially finds these creatures, who are in fact Jotun. The Vargr are a breed of Jotun, and that's something else I need to get into in a video, is talking about the different breeds and tribes in Norse mythology, because we often think that the Jotun, they're entirely different from the Aesir and the Vanir, that these are all different species, they're all different races, but Norse mythology doesn't actually support that, and there's a whole series behind that that I'm planning on doing. But for now, just understand, Loki in the mainline mythology is never actually attested as being the actual father of Fenrir, but rather as being the caretaker of Fenrir. And that sort of ends up crossing over based on the language gap. And at the end, we see him walking with 3 wolves that are noted in the runes on the wall as being Vargr. So that means we're almost definitely going to either see a fight with Fenrir, between Fenrir and Kratos, or we're going to see Kratos and Atreus fighting with Fenrir in the same way that we saw Kratos fighting with the Titans in God of War 2 or 3. I don't remember if it was 2 or 3 where he climbs the mountain. I think it was 2. So that could be an absolutely insane thing. Beyond that, we are definitely getting a fight with Thor. That was teased at the end of the last game. If you got the true ending and you waited till the end of the credits in God of War 4, you saw that Thor shows up, he's pissed off, lightning everywhere, boom, reveals the hammer. That was the big teaser they gave us at the end of the last game. Now, we're certainly going to get that, but what else could we get? Now, I think that we're probably going to get a lot of mainline fights with a lot of the major Aesir gods. So we might potentially see some more about Tyr. We're definitely going to see a fight with Thor. We might even see fights with Vali and V, who are Odin's brothers. We're going to get a lot more. Maybe we'll see a fight with Sif, or maybe we'll even see Sif trying to seduce Kratos. There's a lot that could happen in there, but there's a whole section of Vanir gods that we've never seen. So here's my prediction. I think that we're either going to get a huge fight starting with Thor, and then Thor being either the final boss or Odin being the final boss, with a bunch of grief with the Vanir gods, so fighting perhaps Hodor, Freyr, who is the brother of Freya, and I think that Daddy might get involved. So if this is all one game, the mid-game is going to be filled entirely with Vanir gods because of Freya at the end of the last game. And this is another spoiler, big spoiler. I think that, so at the end of the fights with the Valkyries, we hear from Sigrun that Freya used to be, and for those of you who are my Norse people, it's pronounced Froya. Think that Freya, we find out that Freya was the original queen of the Valkyries. That's based off of a misnomer in the mythology, not a whole lot of grounds for it. However, it does make for a lot of interesting conflicts. And she ends up asking Mimir when she comes to see him while Atreus and Kratos are on top of the mountain in Jotunheim. She asks him where Odin hid her wings. Now, in the mythology, Freya did have wings, but it was a gift given to her that allowed her to have the wings of a hawk and allowed her to transform into a hawk and to fly at incredible speeds. And I know that that's what they're referencing, but they believe it's to get her warrior spirit back, because we also find out Freya is not allowed to do harm to anyone because of a curse put on her by Odin. So I think that while we're not going to be able to fight Freya because Freya technically can't fight, I think she's going to get Daddy involved, and we're going to have to fight Freyr, her brother, as well as Njordr, the king of the sea, her father. So I think that's what's going to happen in the mid-game. Now, if this ends up being 2 games, I think that this next game, we're going to see what would be the Aesir Vanir fight during Ragnarok, and that most of these gods from the Vanir side that we would see fight during Ragnarok are actually going to fight with Kratos. And I think that if this is the second game and there's going to be another one, we're going to see that fight go on. We're going to see maybe a very basic battle between some of the Aesir like Thor and Kratos, and then the rest of the game is going to be a battle with the Vanir gods in Freya's attempt to reclaim her warrior spirit and take revenge on Kratos and Atreus. And then the next game will be us seeing Kratos absolutely decimating the rest of the Aesir gods, as well as fighting possibly Jormungandr, Fenrir, and the fire giant Surtur in order to stop Ragnarok from coming. What do you guys think is going to happen in God of War 5? Let me know in the Kilt section down below. And if you have enjoyed this video, or you would like to watch any of my other videos, I will have a playlist here of all my other God of War videos, as well as a video that YouTube recommends strongly for you. And if you have not already joined the clan, I strongly recommend you do so by engaging the subscribe button in Mortal Kombat. And you will know you have won when the blood drains from its body and it becomes a deathly grey. And conveniently located to its right is the victory bell, which you can ring to let all know of your victory over the subscribe button, and as a bonus you will also always know when I upload a video. Thank you so much for liking and for engaging down in the Kilt section below. Until next time, warriors, heroes and adventurers, stay bloodthirsty, and remember, all hail, all hail. I forgot about the links, it's alright. And again, fucking up always. Welcome back my way. Always doing it at the end now, never at the beginning.